the mysterious cloud. It's out there. I don't even understand the cloud, to be honest. So you guys over in the Q&A area, I would like to know, if you're here today, have you read these chapters 8 through 12? I believe that was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes. Have you read them? Because that definitely will help us know that you've done that. I know that some of you are reading with kids and you might be behind, but have you yourself actually read those? That would be a good thing. So let's start with the Anza all air thing.
Great question.
So would you chime in? Would you chime in with what you think Anza, where Anza came from, and what do you think, or where do you think the word all air? And it's not ale air, it's all air. Like there's a whole lot of air, so it's all air. Where do you think that those came from? I'm just interested before we spill the beans.
Yeah. So yeah, refresher, which is names of our fantasy land.
So Karen, you're saying Kansas and Cordelia, and I'm not sure how you're getting Cordelia in the Anza, but I will talk about Cordelia while y'all are chiming in. Cordelia, we were honestly just trying to name a town after somebody's wife, and so we were trying to think of different names. And I know, Kat, at one point we were in Cornelia.
Yes.
And I just didn't like the N for whatever reason. I liked the D. And many of you know that I have a Great Dane named Cordelia, and she was named after the fictitious town. I got Cordelia the dog after we had already established the name. So I named Cordelia after the town in the book. So that is my correlation to Cordelia. Yeah, so no guesses on. Well, so here's the deal. You guys, look at the word Kansas. Just look at the word Kansas and take off the first letter and the last letter.
Genius.
Lizzy is from Kansas. Obviously, she's from Overland Park, Kansas. Cordelia is in Kansas. And we do have a strong tie to the Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy is from Kansas. So when we were trying to name the capital city, we threw things out, and you throw them at a dartboard and see what sticks. And we just liked the name Anza. And Anza is Kansas without the K and without the S at the end. So that's where Kansas came from. If you, whether you're guessing or whether you're not guessing, would you put on for all air? Would you just say, I have no clue, or maybe this is what it is? Because there is a real thing behind the name all air. There's a real thing there. So thank you for reading down, just taking some of these away.
Okay.
I've read the chapters. Great, Tammy. Thank you so much. And Henny, thank you so much for reading that. And yes, we've got the Kansas. That's my best guess. That's great. No idea, no clue about all air. Imagination from the air. That's wonderful. So this is a fun story, Kat. You weren't there when this happened. But in 2018, in August of 2018, I was doing a tour of Ireland I did 2 tours back to back. And I was telling everybody about the story of Lizzy Albright, and that we were trying to come up with a name like Oz, a place to go to. And somebody from the back of the bus, because the journey starts with the attic, they said, what's the Gaelic word for attic? And so my driver, who is obviously Irish and speaks Gaelic, he's the one that said it's all air. All air. It means attic. So the kingdom of all air is the Gaelic word for attic. Now you're really privy. How about that?
That's right.
Jan talking about illustrations. So that's first of all, the illustrations that are in the book are only in the book because as we were going to print, literally on Thursday before printing was starting on Monday, the printer said, we have 4 blank pages. We're in a signature. We're going to have 4 blank pages if you don't do something with those 4 pages. So I went into overdrive Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to create the 4 illustrations that are in the book because there weren't going to be any. But what I'm hoping is that we will have artists that will end up creating art based on the story that we can either use in cards or calendars or stuff like that, regardless of the meeting or how it happens. So Westmont going about 60 today. Yay. I know where Anza comes. I have to guess, but not sure. Thank you. We got that taken care of. I'm just getting rid of some of these. And thank you so much for being here. That's wonderful. But so I don't know if y'all have seen some of the illustrations that we've used on Facebook because I did do several illustrations. I have Calixta and the Twig Sickles and Fiddler's Cove and some of those things. Plus, no idea. Thank you for your patience here. So, so that's where that came from. So now when I look at the chapters, I gave a cat a little outline today. One of the things that happens in this particular situation is that we've obviously turned the page to something totally different. And we've gone to a kingdom, the kingdom of Alair. We're learning about the city of Anza, and we learn about there's royalty. And as Kat, you can attest to this, when we started writing this kind of castle story, there was a long time that it was kind of an old-fashioned kingdom, like in a fairy tale, a castle on a hill with probably peasants, growing carrots and potatoes and having a muddy village or something down below.
Right.
Do you want to address how the whole process of how we got to where we were, at least from your vantage point?
Just like any kind of creative collaboration, when you're working on something together, one idea will spark another idea, and things grow. So when I started, for example, Grandma and her house started out as a very simple little 3-bedroom, 2-bath home and ended up as a mansion. So yes, our fictitious world started out as, when we originally wrote it, very simple, like you said, fairy tale, castle on the hill, and then the regular workers down below, and that was kind of it. And then we decided, well, that's not very captivating, and what could we do to make it so, and what things could we incorporate into this world that would also catch the attention of the younger reader, because thus far we hadn't really done that yet. And so what better way than technologies and toys and fun things to grab that attention? Well, in order to have those technologies and toys, now you have to have a city that does that kind of stuff. So we had to create that whole world. It's crazy.
And it is writing the book and creating that really was an evolutionary experience. I remember us going from the castle on the hill, which is still there, and a little village. I remember us going to let's kind of make it like old English. Let's go back to where, it's like London in the 1800s or
Right.
late 1700s. There are buildings and there's cobblestone streets. There was that for a little bit. And it was somewhere along the way here when I remember I texted Kat and I said, Kat, what if we go with this funky kind of steampunk kind of, it's old, but it's futuristic and all of that. And that they do have vehicles, but their vehicles are not like what we would normally, and they're motorized. And suddenly that just started spawning into the today's technology that Lizzy wouldn't have any clue about,
Right.
but that our younger readers would totally expect.
Yeah.
And so that's where the motor bees and the speaksies, and then we in this chapter with the two brothers, once they're getting ready to leave, and one of them says, man, this is so bang.
Yeah.
And so we started wanting to creating kind of a language even where these words became part of this particular story and unique to this story. And I can't say how those happened. They happened just because in the moment you're trying to be creative. So that's how that all came to be. I want to go back to the Royal Brothers of Valere chapter where we have established that there's royalty. We have a king who's died. We also have established a religion, the Book of Satins, and those that are the followers of the Book of Satins go to satinaries where they say their prayers and they have their so forth, and they look to the celestial realm for their guidance and for their quote unquote religion. So we established that. We've established that there's the Aularian Parliament in the system, because the Parliament is the one that normally oversees who's going to be the successor, even though they usually go by the bloodline and it's usually traditional. We've established a lot of things like that. But also we established the fact that there's magic, there's sorcery, there's mages where they study at the Mage Guild, and they follow a particular way of doing that. And of course, we then have this little flashback, which is one of my favorite scenes in the book, is we flash back to when Cedric and Gethric are young, 5 years old, and they're in the garden with Lessa, who is their day nurse. And I would be interested, as I'm talking about this, if you guys throw some comments in there about this scene. But this is the scene where Cedric sees the robin on the ground, and he picks up the baby robin, and he doesn't want it to die, and he's commanding it not to die, and he breathed on it, and it perks right up. And then Lessa, he hands it to Lessa, who's going to take it, and put it back in the tree. And we don't know at this point. This is a literary device that Kat and I used many times to not reveal things right away. So the reader is probably assuming Lessa, the day nurse, is a young lady or a matronly lady. And then we suddenly learn that she's a peacock or a peahen.
I love that.
And she flies up and puts it in there. And so we now learn that the boy's nurse is a critter and not necessarily a human. And that's the first time that we allude to that kind of thing in the book. And it's usually a pretty good surprise. But then when we get into the Barleywick, Bigglestons, and Beards, because Gethric is going to plan the party, we learn about Brant. He's the senior guard, and he's taking care of the royal brothers. And it's only after we meet him that Gethric says, could you please take a bath for this time? Because just because you are a bear doesn't mean that you need to smell like a bear too. And that happened. And then when we get to Fergus, who is the dresser, he's the royal, dresser. He makes clothes. He makes the royal brothers look great, but they're wanting to go out on the town and they have to look ordinary. And so Fergus is then sent off to go shopping for the wardrobe.
Yes.
And the fun thing about Fergus for me is you never know if Fergus is a real person or a critter of some kind, an animal of some kind. That's never really explained. But while we're there, Kat, let's talk a little bit about the wardrobes and the dressing for all air, because that's why I'm wearing my hat today, because this is a
Yeah,
very much of an Alarian type hat.
love it.
I'm going to throw it over to you to discuss that, even though I wrote it all. Let's talk
Well,
about
yeah,
where
you,
we
you've
went
got a
with
better
that.
handle on it, but I do know that we also knew a lot of our audience that would embrace this story to begin with, which would be a lot of Ricky's fans. And those people are very familiar with fabrics and details and embellishments and how they're made. And they understand and respect the art of creating clothes or quilts or all of those things. So actually, you're better describing all of that than me, and that obviously that section was written by you because it was very detailed and really brings the reader into the styles that we were trying, the imagery of what we were trying to get across, which is really well written because of your knowledge in that world. Even though I have a little knowledge.
And I was, you're a fashion design major, you know, fashion. My thing was, when I was writing Fergus's descriptions, I really was thinking in my mind, what would a narrator or a voice, a person that, when there's a runway and somebody's trying to describe the garment, this garment has blah, 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 and it's being told. Well, I wanted that voice to be like it was on the runway. And Fergus is trying to describe all of that, so that, you know, it has lacings that come up the legs and a double clamp buckle that does such and such, and you know, just the descriptions. And for me, while it is very descriptive, I think that little set of description really helps solidify. If you were to look at the world of all air, and we've now described the motor bees, the BMC motor bees, we've described those. They kind of look like a spider, but they're 3 wheels, and they drive around, and they may have a canopy, and they may have a little swirling propeller. And then you start looking at the people and what they're wearing. It starts solidifying in the reader's mind what this world really looks like. So sometimes I did get descriptive, but I got descriptive for a reason.
Yeah, no.
So
totally.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about, Kat, is I remember writing this particular chapter where we have the brothers and the motor bees, and we were describing I was thinking of the Ivy League, right? The colleges of the Ivy League. And I thought, you know, this is the Satins Guild College, this is the Mage Guild College, this is the Governing Guild College, all of these things, and they would be very prestigious. And I wanted them to kind of be together. And we created this wall. And it was at this time that I'm thinking about the pups, and you had, you know, Murphy and Henry, and I had Rosie and Barley. Cordelia was already in the book because I named her from the book, but this is where we wanted to secretly throw our animals into the story. And so, so I created Barleywick Quarter, and the name literally came from, because I have Barley the dog. And then the Rosevine Colleges, instead of the Ivy League, it's the Rosevine Colleges from Rosie, but also the quarry, the granite that they use to build these buildings, and even the rose wall that has the roses all the way around on the inside and the outside is all from Rosie. And then I feel bad because Henry only gets to be a bit part.
I know.
Henry's the guard. He's the guard at the gate, and he's playing a video game while he's just watching people come and go. But Murphy got a big.
It's a road.
It's
a boulevard.
And he's a saint.
Oh,
Saint
I know.
Murphy. So,
and you know, I will have to say that he thinks so. He definitely thinks he is.
So those names actually came from our animals, and you know, it was fun to come up with names of places, names of peoples, names of vehicles, like the Biggleston Motor Company Motor Bees. And we created the Speaksy, which is kind of like a smartphone. which has the device for taking pictures and for communicating, those kinds of things. And when I did Speaksy with the small s and the capital P, that was absolutely a tribute to the iPhone or the iBook or the whatever. It was a little bit of a nod to the technology that we have today. And then let's see what else I wanted to share. Oh, so then the brothers have to be groomed, and they're going to call for the barber, and he comes from the groomed goat, and he comes in, and we have Brock the footman, who we at that moment we don't know if Brock is an animal or a human, but we suddenly learn that he's hooved, and he looks like a fairly well groomed goat.
Yes.
And so we learn that Brock is a goat, and then we meet Carlson the barber, and they have a conversation. And that chapter ends with something that I think was kind of fun and important. And it's a secret, and I will tell you, it's not a secret. It's just something that I want you to pay attention to. Getherick takes the device, the little disc, and puts it, you guys, hey, I'm having, look over here. Getherick takes the little device and puts it in his goggles and pulls his goggles down, so he's able to see the pictures by using this device that he's wearing. And Cedric pulls a monocle down. He has a single monocle that he pulls down and puts in there. And I think there's a little something to remember there, just so that you don't forget what Cedric looks like with his monocle, because that does move forward in the book. But there's one fun thing here that happens because the barber asks a joke. And the joke has to do with about what day, how many days start with the letter T. And Kat, I'm going to throw it to you because I know you know the answer, but this is also from Lizzy's childhood. This is from what's going on in Lizzy's world and why we have the days of the week listed as we do.
Yes. So, and I'm sure most of our readers probably caught on to that already, but yeah, they start listing the days there in All Air. And actually I had a prank played on me as a kid, and I had some girlfriends of mine call me up and say that they were this boy at school that I had a crush on. And they like tried to lower their voice, and this is Frank, or whatever his name was. And then they played the Beatles song 8 Days a Week over the phone. And so that song is part of my childhood history as kind of a gag, right? So the 8 Days a Week, we decided to make that a prominent. And then of course, Lizzy gets the album for her birthday. And so the 8 days, we decided to make it a real thing. And this is where we first learn of that. And I think that's a blast. Really fun.
Yeah. And the days of our week are sort of astronomically loosely named, but we did that as well, kind of that they're named from the followers of Saturn's. So we had Moon's Day, we had Tree's Day, we had Wind's Day for the wind. We do have King's Day because of the king, but we have Saturn's Day, and Saturn's Day would of course come from the book of Satins, and it would be their holy day or whatever. So those were created. And then of course the 8 days a week is 100% related to Lizzy getting 8 days a week on her birthday. So the kingdom, and that's kind of fun, and that's going to keep cropping up just a little bit as well. But certainly that was it. Now we're in the snail's trail in the next chapter. The brothers have met the sisters, and they don't know, well, they do know they're sisters, but they don't know who they are. And I love the scene in the snail's trail. Jan Shepherd has mentioned the names for the drinks, which is the Rummy Ritas. And we are looking to do a cookbook that has some of the things that are in the story, things like the recipe for the Rummy Ritas. And I'm sure we would have Granny's, roast beef, even the recipe for a fruit jello salad or something. We're looking at having all of that, but we haven't created the Rummy Rita just yet.
I have an idea. I have an idea of what we need.
Okay, well, I'm thinking you're going to be in charge of that anyway, because
I think
you're better at it. You're better at it than I am. There's so many little things that I want to mention before we're gone today. So I'm just going to jump into this. When we're at the Shoe and Fiddle, I really love the fact that Brant, who's this big tough bear, is having to drink a Fizbee. That's another thing that we've made up. And he's drinking this light, fuzzy little sweet drink. And he's really pissed that he has to do that because he would much rather have a hammer down. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
another one we have to create. We have to create the
Not a
hammer
problem.
down. But we also get the description of the bar. And for you quilters that are out there, this is one of the biggest hidden secrets. I'm just going to reveal it to you. We describe the bar. The barman's name is Jacob. And as we get into the bar, we describe the tiers of alcoholic beverages, and that Jacob and the shorter barman cannot reach the upper tier. So they have a sliding rolling ladder that they use to reach the upper tier. And for you quilters out there, that is the nod to Jacob's ladder. Just in case you missed that, because it's really hidden in the story. And of course, we go to the Snail's Trail pub or little tavern, which is serving, very soft atmosphere, very blue, very quiet. And so, of course, the Snail's Trail is another nod to the quilting. And then while we end up putting a bow on that particular chapter, after the brothers see the girls, the Ice Angels, they perform, they're a big hit. There's the scene with the black jacket guy, and it's really intense. But obviously, they fall in love, they get married, and the very end of everything that we've just read wraps back to the beginning where King Joseph died. So that whole 4 or 5 chapters was all about, here's the king, let's go back, let's meet the boys grow up, the boys get married, and then we're back to the very beginning of that where King Joseph dies, and now Cedric is going to take over as king of all air. So that's kind of the wrap up for everything that we've done. Are there any last minute questions about any of the things that we've talked about today? Oh, I forgot the roll your eyes joke, because whenever the brothers have broken down, they get help from a bull. We find out that he's a beefy fellow, that we learn that he's a bull, and he's got a date with 2 ostriches. And where are we going? Oh, we're going to my favorite tavern. We're going to the China closet. So we have the bull in the China closet. So those kind of fun things are thrown in there. You guys, thank you, Jan. Thank you so much for your comments and for your chiming in. We look forward to seeing you guys on Monday. The next chapters, we're going to do a little drawing. Today's Monday, Thursday. Yes, Thursday. Sorry.
Moon's Day.
And I'm going to just quickly, my calendar tells me what the chapters are. So let me get over there. We're going to read 13 through 17. 13 through 17, they're both odd numbers, 13 through 17. And this is not a spoiler, you're going to get back to Lizzy. So if you're reading with a youngster, we're going to leave this story, tell them to remember it because it's all important. But now we're going to go back to a Lizzy story, and all of the various stories that we throw out at you in these little clumps are all going to come together eventually. So, we'll do so I want to do the drawing, and I'm waiting for a response. 73. All right. So that is, let me go to my file numbers. And number 73 it's Ellie Simard, S-I-M-A-R-D, Simard or Simard. So Ellie, congratulations. You are our winner of the Lizzy Albright Magic Wands. Thank you so much for registering and being a part of our journey. So everyone, let me get back over to my Zoom. Sorry, I got to get back to my Zoom so I can see you. Thank you guys for watching so much. It's great to have you joining us, and I hope you're enjoying the story. If you've read it once and you're reading it again, that makes me happy. If you're reading it for the first time, try to reach up through chapter 17 before I meet you again on Thursday. And Thursday's my birthday. Friday's Cat's
mine.
birthday. So this is birthday week. So we'll look forward to seeing you
Birthday
guys
month.
then, okay? It is big birthday month. It really is. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope y'all have fun returning back to Lizzy with Greta. And they're going to have a bumpy landing.